A millionaire CEO caught the nanny fixing a $300 million problem in seconds. What he did next shocked the entire company. Before we begin the story, tell us in the comments. What city are you watching from? And at the end, don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story. William Moore's phone rang for the third time, and this time he answered without even checking the number. "I'm on my way down. Stay on the line." His voice was cold, direct. A kind of command that didn't allow for questions. He got up from his office chair and walked out, leaving the door slightly open and the laptop still on the desk, screen glowing blue, lines of code running across it. Sophia, standing across the hall, peeked into the room. Oliver's backpack had been left there. He had left his tablet charger on William's desk. Sophia hesitated, glanced around, and stepped in quickly, just to grab the charger and leave before anyone noticed. But what she saw on the laptop screen stopped her in her tracks. It was code, lines and lines of it, messy, repetitive, the logic all over the place. The charger was right there next to the keyboard. All she had to do was pick it up. That screen, it was screaming for help. "My goodness, this is really badly built," she muttered, raising an eyebrow. Without thinking, she sat down in front of the laptop. She leaned in for a closer look. The problem was obvious. A poorly placed loop was clogging the main function, causing the data queue to feed back into the system. A classic mistake. Still on instinct, she started typing. Her fingers moved across the keyboard with surprising speed for someone who just took care of kids. Her expression was calm and focused, like she did this every day, and once she had, but no one there knew, or almost no one. She fixed the structure, reorganized the logic, split the elements, and tested it. The cursor stopped where it was supposed to. It ran smoothly. She smiled. "There. Breathe, system." That's when she heard the voice. "What are you doing?" Sophia froze. Her heart jumped so hard that for a second, she thought she'd hit her head on the edge of the screen. She turned around slowly. William was standing in the doorway, his face frozen between disbelief and fury. I, she tried to speak, but no sound came out. He stepped inside, eyes wide like he'd just caught a thief. Sophia jumped up, stumbling. "You had absolutely no right to touch that computer," he said angrily, stepping forward. I know, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, I swear. Oliver's charger was here, I came to get it and I saw the code, I recognized the error, and it was instinct. I just fixed it." "Fixed it?" he shot back sarcastically, moving closer. "Who do you think you are?" "I didn't think, I just acted. It was reflex. I didn't mean to touch anything of yours. I swear, I just saw the bug and corrected it." The logic was stuck in the main function loop. It was spinning like a hamster in a wheel. She answered without even thinking. William stopped. He looked at the screen. Sophia stood still, hands clasped in front of her, as if trying to stop her heart from jumping out of her chest. The silence stretched out like it would never end. William sat down in the chair. His fingers moved quickly over the keyboard, testing what she had done. He ran it again. The line that was stuck now flowed. The final execution, clean. The bug that his team, some of the best software engineers in the country, hadn't been able to fix in 2 weeks, was solved. He couldn't believe it. But the numbers were there. He began, his voice no longer angry, just stunned. "You just saved a $300 million deal," he said, still staring at the screen. Sophia took a step back, unsure if that was a compliment or a reason to be arrested. I'm really sorry. Truly. You can fire me. I shouldn't have." He raised his hand, motioning her to stop. William stayed quiet for a moment. Then he stood up. She took another step back, ready to leave the room. Ready to leave the city, if she had to. He looked at her with an unreadable expression. "That was brilliant." Sophia's eyes widened. "That doesn't change the fact that I invaded your space and messed with something I shouldn't have." "Yes, and by doing that, you saved a project that's been keeping me up at night." He turned, studying her more carefully. "Who are you, really?" "I'm just your son's nanny." She let out a nervous laugh, trying to lighten the tension. So, Am I still hired as the nanny, or did I just quit as an accidental hacker? William didn't answer right away. He stared at the laptop screen. The fixed code flashed like undeniable proof of what had just happened. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Sophia had noticed he made when processing something big. "Have a seat," he finally said, pointing to the leather armchair beside the desk. Sophia hesitated. "Look, if you're about to give me a lecture on privacy and professional boundaries, I'd rather hear it standing. That way I can run if I need to." He almost smiled. Almost. "Sit down, Sophia, please." The please caught her off guard. She settled into the chair, smoothing her uniform skirt nervously. William turned his chair to face her, arms crossed, but his posture was less tense than before. "Where did you learn programming?" he asked, getting straight to the point. Sophia sighed. "Queen Anne Public Library, computer section, shelves J47 through J52, if you want to check." "Library?" His disbelief returned. "Yep, boss. Not everyone is born with money for MIT or Stanford. Some of us have to work with what we've got." She crossed her legs, suddenly more confident. "Python for beginners, JavaScript made easy, fundamentals of data structures. I read them all, twice. Some parts, 3 times. William studied her like he was trying to solve a complicated puzzle. "And where else?" "Free online courses, Khan Academy, Codecademy, free code camp." Sophia counted on her fingers. "All free, all in the middle of the night, after Oliver was asleep and before you woke up." She chuckled. "Did you know your Wi-Fi is amazing at 3 a.m.? You used my internet to study programming." His voice was somewhere between annoyed and impressed. "Technically, I was in the house. And technically, you never said I couldn't." She shrugged. "But don't worry, I never touched any of your personal stuff. I'm an ethical intruder." William shook his head, stunned. "How long have you been studying all this?" "About 3 years. Started as curiosity, turned into an obsession, and now it's apparently a reason for an interrogation." 3 years? He leaned forward. "And you never mentioned it?" Sophia laughed, a genuine and disarming sound. "Oh, sure. First day on the job, I'd say. 'Hi, I'm Sophia. I'll be taking care of your kid, and oh, by the way, I can also hack banking systems in my spare time.' Totally normal, right?" "It's not hacking when you fix bugs," William muttered, mostly to himself. "Thanks for the technical clarification, Professor." Sophia stood up. "But now that you know my dark secret, I'm heading back to work. Oliver's probably wondering where I went." "Wait," William stood too. "Did you go to college?" Sophia stopped at the door and slowly turned back. "I started a computer science degree at the University of Washington, 2.5 years. "Started? What happened?" For a moment, Sophia's playful mask slipped. "Life happened. Bills to pay, family to take care of, dreams that cost more than I could afford." "And you just gave up?" The question came out sharper than William meant. Sophia straightened her shoulders, the playful glint in her eyes replaced by something firmer. "Gave up?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it this time. "I didn't give up on anything. I made choices. I chose to pay rent instead of tuition. I chose to work instead of drowning in debt. I chose to survive instead of dreaming." William felt something strange in his chest, a feeling he couldn't quite name. "I didn't mean, you meant exactly that," Sophia said, stepping closer, her eyes sharp. "Because in your world, if someone doesn't have a diploma, they don't matter. If they didn't go to a fancy university, they must not know anything real. Welcome to the real world, boss. Where some people are smart despite their circumstances, not because of their privilege." The silence that followed was heavy. William looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time. He saw the determination in her dark eyes, the way she stood tall despite her simple uniform, the intelligence behind every precisely chosen word. "You're right," he said quietly, "and I was wrong." Sophia blinked, clearly not expecting that. "Wow, that was unexpected." "Happens more than I'd like," William muttered, running a hand over his face. "Would you teach me your approach, the way you fixed the issue, I mean?" Sophia tilted her head. "Seriously? My team has PhDs from Stanford, MIT, Caltech. And you, with library books and borrowed Wi-Fi, fixed in 5 minutes what they couldn't in 2 weeks." "Borrowed Wi-Fi," Sophia corrected with a smile. "And sure, I can explain. Just not now. Oliver's probably destroying your living room." She turned to leave, then paused at the door. "Oh, and William. Yes. Not everything that shines comes from Harvard, boss. Sometimes it's just someone determined enough to polish a rough stone until it becomes a diamond. Sophia left the office, leaving William alone with his thoughts. He looked again at the computer screen, where the code now ran perfectly. Then he looked at the door she had just walked through. From the hallway, he could hear Oliver laughing, followed by Sophia's voice, making up some crazy story about pirates who programmed flying ships. William found himself smiling, something he hadn't done in weeks. He sat back down and tried to focus on his overflowing inbox, but his mind kept going back to the conversation, to the way Sophia had defended her choices without playing the victim, to the sharp intelligence hidden behind her disarming humor, to how she had put him in his place without losing her grace. William Moore had always thought he knew exactly how to classify people. He'd sort them quickly, useful or useless, smart or average, driven or complacent. But Sophia didn't fit into any of those categories, and somehow that bothered him in a strangely pleasant way. For the first time in years, William Moore felt curious, not just professionally, but genuinely intrigued by another person. And that feeling, he realized with a mix of fascination and concern, was starting to matter to him in a way that had nothing to do with clean code or $300 million problems. Oliver's voice echoed from the hallway. "Sophia, can you teach my dad how to make pancakes that don't look like burned cookies?" Her laughter rang out like a bell. "Only if he promises not to try and program the recipe." William shook his head, finally allowing the smile to fully form. Yes, there was definitely something about Sophia Sands that deserved his attention, and for the first time in a long time, he was eager to find out what it was. The following Monday, William woke up with an idea that bordered on ridiculous, but it was also irresistible. If Sophia really had the knowledge she'd shown, he needed to be sure, not because he didn't trust her, but because of scientific curiosity. At least that's what he told himself as he set up the first test. He left a spreadsheet open on his laptop, with a formula that was deliberately wrong. Not too obvious, but just annoying enough to bother anyone with a trained eye. A VLOOKUP, with a circular reference that would make Excel cry blood. "Good morning, Sophia," he greeted as she arrived, watching her closely. "Morning, boss." She hung her bag on the kitchen hook. "Oliver still sleeping?" "Like an angel." "Coffee?" Sophia raised an eyebrow. "You're offering me coffee? What phase are we in now?" "The trying to be less arrogant phase, according to a very wise person I met recently." "She must be really smart," Sophia replied with a smile, accepting the cup. "I'll go wake the little prince." William returned to the office and pretended to work, but kept an ear out for sounds around the house. Vacuum noise, Oliver's laughter, footsteps in the hallway. After an hour, he found a sticky note on his monitor. "Your spreadsheet had the hiccups. VLOOKUP isn't supposed to loop forever unless you're trying to create a black hole in Excel. Fixed it. You're welcome. S." William smiled. Phase 1 of the test passed. On Tuesday, he was more subtle. He left a Python script open with messy indentation, something that wouldn't break the code, but would definitely make it behave oddly and drive any programmer crazy. The note was taped to the keyboard. "Whoever formatted this needs help. Looks like it was attacked by rival gangs of tabs and spaces. I got them organized. Now they live in peace. S. P.S. Always use 4 spaces. Always." William laughed out loud. Oliver, who was running down the hallway, stopped at the door. "Why are you laughing by yourself, Dad?" "Sophia says people who laugh alone are usually planning something sneaky." "Sophia says a lot of wise things," William muttered, folding the note. On Wednesday, he raised the difficulty. He left a PowerPoint presentation open, written in Comic Sans, with bright, clashing colors and wild animations, an intentional eyesore. This time, the note came with a new presentation. "My eyes bled. I made a version that won't trigger seizures. Arial 12, professional colors, smooth transitions. Visual respect is everything, boss. Your investors will thank you. S. P.S. Comic Sans is a crime against humanity." William opened the new version and was stunned. She hadn't just fixed the design. She had reorganized the content in a way that was more logical and impactful. It was professional. Extremely professional. On Thursday, he decided to test more specific knowledge. He left a piece of JavaScript code with a poorly structured recursive function that would cause a stack overflow. It was the kind of error only someone with solid skills would catch. The note came back with a full correction. Your recursion was more lost than a tourist in Sao Paulo. I implemented memoization to improve performance and keep the browser from having a nervous breakdown. Now it runs as smooth as samba at carnival. P.S. Recursion without control is like Oliver without supervision. Guaranteed disaster. William stopped pretending he was just curious. This woman had solid technical knowledge, a sharp sense of aesthetics, and, on top of that, she was funny. It was unsettling and fascinating. On Friday, he couldn't resist one final test. He left a spreadsheet with real financial data, nothing confidential, but complex, with several incorrect formulas and awful formatting. He wanted to see how far she'd go. 2 hours later, he found not just a note, but a completely redone spreadsheet. Boss, this was an organizational mess. I redid everything. Dynamic charts, pivot tables, conditional formatting, and even a nice little dashboard. If this were a house, I would have torn it down and rebuilt it. Hope you like the remodel. Who taught you Excel? I need to have a serious word with them. William opened the spreadsheet and his jaw literally dropped. It was corporate-level work. Elegant charts, organized data, analyses he hadn't even thought to make. It was better than the work of some senior analysts in his company. He stared at the screen, then at the note, then back at the screen. A strange feeling started growing in his chest. It wasn't just professional admiration anymore. It was interest. Genuine interest in getting to know the brilliant mind disguised as a nanny. Dad, why do you look like you've seen a ghost? Oliver appeared in the doorway, holding a glass of juice. It's not a ghost, son. It's surprise. Sophia does that, he said simply. She told me smart people like good surprises. You think she's smart? Oliver rolled his eyes. Dad, she solves my math problems faster than you, and she makes dinosaur-shaped pancakes. And yesterday, she fixed my video game when you said we'd have to call tech support. William smiled. That's true. Can I tell you a secret? Oliver whispered dramatically. Of course. Sophia stays up late, messing with the computer in the living room. I saw her when I went to get water. She was making colorful drawings on the screen. Colorful drawings on the screen. Probably coding or studying. William felt a stab of guilt for testing her behind the scenes when she was clearly using her own time to keep learning. Oliver, do you like Sophia? Obviously, she's fun, and she doesn't get mad when I ask weird questions. Oliver took a sip of juice. You like her too, right? The question caught William off guard. Why do you think that? Because you stop frowning when she's around, and you smile more. Sophia says smiling is good for the heart. Out of the mouths of children. William looked at his son, impressed by his perception. She really does say a lot of wise things. Yep, Oliver took another sip. Oh, and Dad? Yes, Sophia left a note for you on the fridge. She said it was important. William's heart started to race. Important how? I don't know. She just said you'd understand when you read it. William walked to the kitchen, Oliver trailing behind like a curious puppy. On the fridge door, held up by a dinosaur-shaped magnet, was a different kind of note. Same handwriting, but the tone. William, I know you've been leaving mistakes on purpose to test me. It doesn't bother me. Actually, it's kind of sweet, watching you try to figure out who I am without just asking. But how about we have a real conversation? Oliver's sleeping at his grandmother's tomorrow, right? I promise I won't hack anything of yours without permission. P.S. You have a real gift for creating creative problems. Ever thought about changing careers? S. William read the note 3 times. She knew. Of course she knew. And instead of being offended, she was inviting him to talk. What did she write? Oliver tried to peek over his dad's arm. That she's even smarter than I thought. I already knew that, Oliver said matter-of-factly. Sophia always knows things before we say them. William folded the note carefully and put it in his pocket. For the first time in years he was looking forward to a conversation, genuinely looking forward to getting to know someone. And for the first time since Sophia Sans came into his life, William admitted to himself that maybe, just maybe, he was interested in her in a way that went far beyond anything professional. William spent all of Saturday planning. Oliver was at his grandmother's, and the quiet house gave him time to think. He had decided he wanted a real conversation with Sophia. But being William Moore, he couldn't just ask her to talk. He needed a pretext. So he set up his most elaborate trap yet, an optimization algorithm with a subtle but obvious logical flaw. At least obvious to anyone with solid knowledge. The kind of mistake that would make an experienced programmer shake their head in frustration. At 8 a.m. on Monday, when Sophia arrived, he was in the kitchen making coffee with near-scientific focus. "Good morning," he said, trying to sound casual. "Oliver's not here today. He came back last night, but wanted to stay at Grandma's one more night." Sophia hung up her bag and looked at him curiously. "And you're cooking?" "Making coffee," William said, stirring the cinnamon a bit too forcefully. "Technical coffee." "Technical coffee?" Sophia raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. "Yeah, I wanted to run a few ideas by you about system optimization." He turned to her, holding 2 cups. "Would you mind taking a look at a project I've been working on?" Sophia crossed her arms, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "William Moore is inviting me for technical coffee? Is it that strange? Considering that until last week you barely acknowledged I existed beyond the role of Oliver's caregiver, yeah, it's a bit surreal." William felt his face grow warm. "I've always known you existed." "Oh sure, as the nanny. Now I'm the nanny who codes." Sophia accepted the mug, breathing in the aroma. Cinnamon. Fancy. Are you going to look at the code or just analyze me like I'm some kind of social experiment?" "Why not both?" Sophia laughed and followed him to the office. William had left his laptop open, code covering the whole screen. Sophia walked up, gave it a casual glance, and William watched her, waiting for the reaction. She was silent for 30 seconds, then she sighed. "Seriously, William? Seriously what?" Sophia turned to him, hands on her hips. "You're testing me again. And this time, you didn't even try to hide it." "I'm not." Infinite loop on line 47. Bad exit condition on line 63. And you had the nerve to use a variable named test for Sophia on line 81. She pointed at the screen without even looking. "You should spend this much time on therapy instead of pranks." William stood frozen for a moment, realizing he had just been completely exposed. And then, something happened that hadn't happened in a long time. He laughed. Not a polite smile or a soft chuckle. A real deep laugh that came from his chest and echoed through the office. Sophia blinked, clearly surprised. "Wow, you actually know how to laugh." "Apparently I do," William said, wiping his eyes, still smiling. "Sorry, it's just, you're absolutely right. About everything. I always am." Sophia sat in the armchair, crossing her legs. "But I admit, I'm curious. Why the whole act? You could have just said, 'Sophia, let's talk.'" William leaned against the desk, facing her. "Honestly, I don't really know how to talk to people in a normal way." "Normal?" "Without an agenda, without a business purpose, without evaluating whether they're useful for something." He ran a hand through his hair. "It's pathetic, I know." Sophia studied him for a moment. "It's not pathetic. It's sad, but not pathetic." "What's the difference?" "Pathetic would be if you hadn't realized it. Sad is when you do realize, but don't know how to change." William felt something shift in his chest. A sharp pang of recognition. "And do you think it's possible to change?" "Anyone can change. The question is whether they want to." Sophia took a sip of her coffee. This is actually really good." The cinnamon was a nice touch. "Thanks." William sat in his office chair. "Can I ask you a personal question?" "Now you want to ask? After spying on me for an entire week?" Sophia laughed. "Go ahead. Why aren't you bitter? About life, I mean. You had to drop out of college. You work as a nanny even though you clearly could do so much more. And still, you laugh. You joke. How?" Sophia was quiet for a moment, turning the cup in her hands. "Because being bitter doesn't change anything. It would just make me miserable, and bitter on top of that." She looked at him. "Besides, who says being a nanny is any less important than working with code?" "Well, objectively." "Objectively? Nothing." Sophia leaned forward. "I take care of your son. I help shape a child's character. I teach him values, patience, creativity. You really think that's worth less than optimizing algorithms?" William opened his mouth to respond, but realized he had no answer. Well, the salary. Oh, so a person's worth is measured in dollars? Sophia raised an eyebrow. Interesting life philosophy. Must be why you're so happy and fulfilled. The irony was sharp, but not cruel. William felt as if he'd just received a gentle slap in the face. You're right, again. I know, Sophia smiled. Look, William, I have nothing against money. Money's useful. It pays bills, it gives you security. But it doesn't define worth. And it definitely doesn't define intelligence or ability. How did you develop all this wisdom? By living in the real world. Sophia shrugged. What kind of bubble did you grow up in? Never had to choose between paying the light bill or buying groceries. Never been told you're not good enough because of your address or your clothes. William shook his head. Then you've never had to learn that people's value has nothing to do with what they wear or where they studied. Sophia stood. It's a tough lesson, but a useful one. And you don't feel angry at people who were born with privilege? Sophia looked at him for a long moment. Anger is a luxury I can't afford. She walked over to the window. But you know what? I do feel pity. Pity? For people like you, who have everything but don't know the value of anything. We're so sheltered by their wealth, they never learn how to find beauty in the simple things. She turned to face him. You have an amazing son, a beautiful home, the power to change the world, and yet, most of the time, you seem miserable. William stood in silence, taking in her words. That was brutally honest. You asked for technical coffee. I always serve it with full specifications. Sophia smiled. But don't worry, I still think there's hope for you. Hope for what? For becoming a decent person. You just need to get out of your own head now and then. William looked at her. Really looked. He saw the intelligence in her dark eyes. The strength in her posture. The kindness that came through even in her sharpest critiques. Sophia? Yes. Thank you. For the technical coffee. She smiled, and William felt something he hadn't in a long time. A genuine connection to another human being. Anytime, boss. But next time, skip the fake code. I prefer real conversations. The following Thursday, William had to do something he hated. Host executives at home for an emergency meeting. The company's main server was acting up, and 3 major clients were threatening to cancel multi-million-dollar contracts. Sophia, we're going to have some traffic around here today, he said over breakfast. 5 or 6 execs are coming for a meeting. Would you mind staying invisible? She finished with a dry smile. Sure, boss. I'll blend in with the wallpaper. That's not what I meant. It's just, they're complicated. Complicated like difficult personalities, or complicated like ignorant and prejudiced. William hesitated. A bit of both. Sophia laughed. Don't worry, I can handle temperamental executives. I've taken care of Oliver on his worst days. By 2 p.m., the penthouse was packed. William had turned the living room into an improvised boardroom, with laptops, projectors, and plenty of coffee. Sophia moved quietly in the background, serving drinks and keeping Oliver entertained in his room. The executives were exactly what William had feared, arrogant, impatient, and treating anyone not wearing a suit like invisible furniture. More, we need solutions, not excuses, said Richard Hamilton, the VP of Technology, from their largest client. $3 million in losses per day is no joke. We're working around the clock to fix it, William replied, his patience wearing thin. Working how? Barked Marcus Webb, another exec, gesturing wildly. Your team is incompetent. Maybe it's time to outsource this to people who actually know what they're doing. Sophia was in the kitchen, preparing more coffee, when the volume of the conversation caught her attention. Oliver had asked for orange juice, and she was carrying the glass for him when the argument reached a peak. The problem is, you surround yourself with amateurs, Hamilton said. You need serious people, not these backyard coders you keep hiring. Sophia froze in the hallway. Backyard coders? Sophia felt her blood boil. Crash courses? People like her, who studied in libraries, who made sacrifices to learn? She tightened her grip on the juice glass and kept walking. What do you suggest? William asked, clearly frustrated. Clean house, Hamilton said. Fire those amateurs and hire real professionals. MIT, Stanford, Caltech. People who didn't learn coding watching YouTube videos. Sophia walked into the room just as Hamilton waved his hand dismissively. And that's when it happened. Maybe it was the YouTube comment, maybe it was the arrogant tone, or maybe it was just fate setting the scene for a perfect moment. Sophia tripped. The glass of orange juice flew in a perfect arc and landed squarely on Hamilton's chest, soaking his crisp white shirt and expensive Italian tie. The silence that followed was absolute. Hamilton looked down, then at Sophia, then back down again. As if his brain couldn't quite process what had happened. You threw juice on me, he stammered, his voice jumping 2 octaves. Sophia looked at him, then at the empty glass in her hand, then at the spreading orange stain on his shirt, and instead of apologizing, like any sane person might, she said, "It's to rinse off all that arrogance." The silence deepened. Webb opened and closed his mouth like a fish out of water. The other executives stood frozen. William was caught between horror and what suspiciously felt like admiration. "You, how dare you?" Hamilton sputtered, dripping juice onto the Persian rug. "Oops, sorry about that," Sophia said, though her tone didn't sound sorry at all. "But since it's already stained, maybe take a moment to reflect on that real people speech. For the record, some of the best programmers I know learned in public libraries. And yes, even on YouTube. Who do you think you are to lecture me?" Hamilton got to his feet, more juice dripping with every movement. "I'm the nanny," Sophia said, standing tall, "and apparently someone with better aim than your social skills." William knew he should step in, reprimand Sophia, apologize, try to save the meeting, but when he opened his mouth, what came out was entirely unexpected. Laughter. It started quietly, almost like a cough. Then it grew, and before long, William Moore, the serious, composed CEO, was laughing out loud in front of the most powerful clients his company had. "Moore," Webb stood up, outraged. "You're going to let your employee treat us like this?" William tried to compose himself, but one look at Hamilton dripping orange juice and waving his arms furiously made it worse. He laughed even harder. "Sorry," he said between chuckles. "It's just, Sophia's right about one thing." "About what?" Hamilton demanded, blotting his shirt with a napkin. "About needing to wash off the arrogance," William said, wiping his eyes. "And about my team. They're brilliant, no matter where they studied." Sophia looked surprised. William looked back at her and gave a quick wink. "But Sophia," he added, trying to look serious, "you can't just go around throwing juice at people." "True," Sophia replied solemnly. "Next time I'll use something that doesn't stain. Maybe water." Hamilton made a strangled noise. Webb looked like he might have a stroke. "This is unacceptable," Hamilton declared. "We demand a formal apology." "Of course," William said, still smiling. "Sophia, would you like to apologize?" Sophia thought for a moment. "I apologize for wasting perfectly good orange juice. Oliver would have loved that juice." The executives stormed out in a huff, muttering threats and indignation. William closed the door behind them and turned to find Sophia picking up shards of glass. "You do realize we probably just lost $3 million contracts," he said. Sophia paused and looked at him. "Are you mad?" William considered the question. He should be furious. He should be calculating losses and thinking up damage control strategies. But instead, he felt light, as if a weight he hadn't realized he was carrying had finally lifted. "No," he said at last. "I'm impressed." "Impressed? You did something I've wanted to do for years," William said with a grin. "And said things I should have said a long time ago." Sophia smiled back. "Then I guess the juice was worth it?" "Every drop." From down the hall came Oliver's voice. "Sophia, where's my juice?" Sophia and William looked at each other and burst out laughing. "I'll just tell him the juice went to a noble cause," Sophia said, still laughing. "And I'll call my lawyers," William replied. "But first, thank you." "For what?" "For reminding me who I used to be, before I became so serious." Sophia smiled. "Anytime, boss. But next time, give me a heads up. I'll bring extra juice." 3 days after the juice incident, as Oliver had named it, life at the penthouse had mostly gone back to normal. Almost normal. William noticed he was smiling more. His conversations with Sophia had become less formal. and she had started leaving notes even when there were no codes to fix. The last one read, "We ran out of coffee. I bought more. Don't thank me, pay me with a day off. S." It was Friday night and William was in the office, trying to figure out why the company's main server kept showing random outages. His team's technical reports were inconclusive. Everything worked perfectly during testing, but the system kept crashing at unpredictable times in production. Oliver was asleep. Sophia was in the living room, folding laundry while watching a Netflix show, and William was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. "Damn it," he muttered, running his hand through his hair for the 20th time. What's going on with this system? He had reviewed logs, analyzed performance metrics, even run manual diagnostics. Nothing. The server just failed. No pattern, no clear cause, no logical explanation. It was the kind of problem that could sink the company if not resolved soon. He got up to get more coffee and passed through the living room. Sophia sat on the couch, surrounded by neatly folded piles of clothes, eyes fixed on the TV. "Working late again?" she asked without looking up. "Server issue. I can't pinpoint the cause." "Huh." Sophia folded one of Oliver's shirts with military precision. "Did you check the virtual memory logs?" William stopped in his tracks. "How do you know about virtual memory logs?" "YouTube University, remember?" Sophia smiled. "And I may have skimmed through some of your reports while cleaning the office." "Sophia, relax. I didn't touch anything confidential. Just glanced over a few things." She finally looked at him. "But seriously, did you check for a memory leak? Could be what's causing the crashes." William stared at her. "No. My team's been focused on code issues and network problems. Memory leaks are sneaky. Everything seems fine at first, then it slowly gets worse until boom. System crashes." Sophia folded another shirt. "But hey, you're the expert. I just watch TV and take care of a kid." William went back to the office with a strange feeling in his gut. Not nausea, anticipation. He opened the virtual memory logs he had completely ignored. And there it was, a systematic leak in the cache module, hidden during testing because it only showed up after many hours of continuous use. In production, where the system ran 24/7, the problem built up until it crashed everything. "My God," William murmured, fingers flying over the keyboard to confirm the finding. That was it. The issue that his team of PhDs couldn't find was right there, clear as day, in the logs no one fought to check. He started implementing a fix. But then he paused. Through the slightly open door, he could see Sophia at the dining table, now hunched over her personal laptop, probably studying. The soft blue light of the screen lit up her focused face. A crazy idea crossed his mind. William gathered the full technical reports, including the newly discovered issue, and accidentally left them spread out on the kitchen table. Then he went back to his office and pretended to keep working. 20 minutes later, he heard footsteps in the kitchen. Sophia, probably getting a glass of water. William hid behind the door, feeling ridiculous, but too curious to stop himself. He heard the rustling of papers. Then silence. A long silence. "William?" Sophia's voice came from the kitchen. He pretended to be deep into work. "Yes. You left some the ports on the table." "Oh, thanks. Must have forgotten them." More silence. Then the unmistakable sound of a chair being pulled out. William waited 15 minutes before heading to the kitchen. Sophia was leaning over the documents, pen in hand, making notes in the margins. "Find anything interesting?" he asked, trying to sound casual. Sophia looked up. "Do you want the polite answer or the brutally honest one?" "Always brutal honesty with you." "Your team was looking in the wrong place," Sophia said, pointing to one of the pages. "You focused on code and connectivity issues, but completely ignored resource management. And the problem is right here." Sophia circled a section of the report. "Memory leak in the cache module. Look at the timestamps of the failures and compare them to the memory usage spikes." William leaned in, pretending to analyze what she had pointed out. "You're right. How did we miss this?" "Because you're all too much of experts." Sophia leaned back in the chair. "Sometimes the simplest answer is the right one. It doesn't have to be complicated to be serious. And how would you suggest we fix it?" Sophia grabbed a blank sheet of paper and started sketching a diagram. Add a more aggressive garbage collector here. Optimize the cash release here. And implement real-time monitoring here. She finished the drawing and slid it over to him. 15 minutes of work, tops. William looked at the diagram. It was clean, efficient, and right. Completely right. Sophia, this is brilliant. It's obvious, she said, standing up and gathering the papers. But you already knew that, didn't you? That's why you left the reports here. William felt his face warm up. I didn't. William, Sophia looked at him with that smile that clearly said, don't underestimate me. You were watching me work. I heard you moving behind the door. Sorry, it was scientific curiosity. Sophia folded the papers and handed them to him. Well, your scientific curiosity just saved your company. Again. Sophia, relax, she cut in. I'm not mad. Actually, it's kind of cute, watching you try to figure out how my mind works. Cute? Like a scientist studying a new type of butterfly. Sophia laughed. But now you owe me. What do you want? A raise? A promotion? I can? William. Sophia placed a hand on his arm, and he felt a small jolt. Stop. Stop what? Trying to fit me into your corporate boxes. She pulled her hand back. I don't want a title. I don't want a promotion. I don't want to be the former nanny who became CTO. Then what do you want? Sophia looked him in the eyes. Respect. Acknowledgement that intelligence doesn't come attached to a diploma. And maybe, she smiled, for you to stop pretending you're not curious about who I really am. William felt his heart pick up speed. Sophia. Good night, William, she said, heading for the door. Are you going to fix that server or just stand there processing this all night? After she left, William stood in the kitchen holding the reports. On top of the stack was a sticky note that hadn't been there before. You can pay me in pizza. Or respect. Your choice, both would be nice, but I'm not picky. P.S. Stop spying on me? If you want to know something, just ask. William smiled and went back to the office. He implemented the fix in 10 minutes. The server stopped crashing immediately. But as he watched the system metrics return to normal, his mind was somewhere else. It was on Sophia. How she had solved $1 million problem like it was a simple puzzle. How she didn't ask for anything but dignity. And how, for the first time in his life, he was genuinely interested in getting to know someone not for what they could do for him, but for who they were. William Moore was beginning to realize that maybe, just maybe, he was falling for Sophia Sands, and that both terrified and excited him. The storm hit without warning on a Tuesday night. Seattle was used to rain, but this was different. Winds near 60 miles per hour, lightning streaking across the sky like electric veins, and rain so heavy it looked like a gray curtain had fallen over the city. William was in the office when the lights flickered for the first time. Oliver was fast asleep, worn out from running around the apartment after the rain had canceled their park plans. Sophia was in the kitchen, finishing the dishes from dinner. This doesn't look good, William murmured, glancing out the window as another bolt of lightning lit up the sky. As if the universe heard him, all the lights went out at once. The penthouse was plunged into total darkness, broken only by the flashes of lightning outside. William? Sophia's voice called from the kitchen. I'm here. Are you okay? I'm fine, but I think the whole city just lost power. William walked over to the window. She was right. All of Seattle was in the dark. Only a few backup generators dotted the skyline with tiny spots of light. Great, he sighed. Where do you keep the candles? Kitchen drawer, next to the stove. Flashlights in the pantry. 15 minutes later, they had turned the living room into a surprisingly cozy space. Candles placed around the tables created golden circles of light, and the fireplace, which William almost never used, was lit, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Oliver didn't even notice, Sophia said as she came back from the boys' room. He's sleeping like an angel. Good for him. William was sitting on the couch, watching the rain hit the windows. I should be working, but without internet. The world's not going to end if you relax for one night. Sophia sat in the armchair beside him, legs tucked underneath her. When was the last time you did nothing? William thought for a moment. Honestly, I can't remember. That's sad. It's practical. It's lonely. Sophia picked up a candle and placed it on the coffee table between them. Have you always been like this? Full-on workaholic? Not always. William leaned back on the couch. When Oliver was a baby, I tried to balance things more. But after my ex-wife, he stopped abruptly. Sorry, I don't have to talk about that. Only if you want to. Sophia tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Sometimes it helps to talk. William was quiet for a moment, listening to the rain. She said I was married to my job. That she and Oliver always came second. His voice was low, almost lost in the sound of the storm. And she was right. What happened? She left me when Oliver was 3. Said she couldn't stand sharing a husband with a company anymore. William looked at his hands. The irony is, I worked so hard to give them security, to build something solid, and in the end, what I built was a wall between us. Sophia studied his face in the candlelight. There was a vulnerability she had never seen before. And after that, you worked even more. It was easier than facing the fact that I failed as a husband and a father. William. Sophia leaned forward. You didn't fail as a father. Oliver loves you. Now he does, but for a long time, he barely knew me. William gave a sad smile. You've done more for him these past few months than I did in the first few years of his life. That's not true. It is. You teach him, play with him, listen to all those crazy stories he makes up. I was always too busy. Sophia was quiet for a moment. Want to know a secret? Sure. Oliver talks about you all the time. My dad is really smart. My dad builds important things. My dad has a computer that talks to the whole world. She smiled. You're his hero. William felt something tighten in his chest. Even when I barely paid attention to him? Kids see love in different ways. For Oliver, you working to take care of him was love. You being home every night was love. You thinking about his future was love. How do you know so much about kids? And about everything? Sophia looked at her hands. Experience. I kind of raised my little sister. Kind of? Totally, actually. Sophia picked up a candle and started turning it between her fingers. My parents died in a car accident when I was 22 and she was 10. All of a sudden, I was responsible for a child. William felt his heart skip. Sophia. That's why I left college. I couldn't afford tuition and raise a child at the same time. She gave a small, sad smile. Isabella needed stability. She needed someone who was present, not a sister who studied all day and worked all night. Where is she now? Med school in California, 2nd year. The pride in Sophia's voice was unmistakable. She's going to be a pediatrician. She says it's because I taught her that taking care of children is the most important thing in the world. William looked at her in the golden candlelight. He saw quiet strength, sacrifice turned into love, and a kind of intelligence that had been used in service of something greater than ambition. You gave up your dreams for her. I didn't give them up. I changed direction. Sophia set the candle back on the table. My dream was to have a career in tech. I ended up having a career in raising people. Isabella, Oliver, not small accomplishments. But you still want to work in tech? Of course, but in my own time, in my own way. She looked at him. Not everything in life has to be a race, William. They sat in silence for a moment, listening to the storm. William felt like he was truly seeing Sophia for the first time. Not the nanny, not the woman who fixed code. The whole person, with all her depth and beauty. That's when William's phone rang. He answered reluctantly. Hello? William, thank God. It was Marcus, his CTO. The system's down again. 3 servers at once. We're losing data. William's blood ran cold. What do you mean 3 servers? We don't know what happened. Everything was working. Then total crash. The clients are furious. Hamilton is threatening to sue. William stood up, running his hand through his hair. No power, no internet. I can't. You need to come to the office, now. Marcus, there's a storm. There's no power anywhere. William, if we don't fix this today, we lose everything. The entire company. Do you understand? William hung up and stood there, staring at the phone. His hands trembled slightly. William? Sophia stood up. What happened? The system crashed completely. 3 servers. His voice sounded strange, distant. Years of work, millions in contracts. Breathe. It's going to be okay. No, you don't understand. William started pacing. It's the whole company, everything I built. If I lose this, William, Oliver, the house, his security, his voice was rising, filled with panic. I can't lose everything again. I can't. William. Sophia stepped closer. I failed, again. I always fail at the important things. Sophia said nothing. She just moved closer and hugged him. Not a comforting or motherly hug. A firm, steady hug that clearly said, "You're not alone." William froze for a second, then allowed himself to relax. He wrapped his arms around her, breathed in the soft scent of her hair, felt the solidity of her small but strong frame. "It's going to be okay," she whispered against his chest. "You'll fix this. You always fix it. And what if I can't? Then we find another way." Sophia pulled back just enough to look him in the eyes. "You're not alone, William." He looked at her. Really looked. Saw the determination in her dark eyes, the quiet strength, the unwavering confidence, and without thinking, he took her hand. Sophia looked down at their joined hands, then back at his face. Her heart raced, but she didn't pull away. Instead, she intertwined her fingers with his. "Sophia." William's voice was hoarse. "I know," she whispered. They stayed like that, holding hands by candlelight, while the storm raged outside. It wasn't a kiss. It wasn't a declaration. It was something deeper, a silent acknowledgement that something had changed between them. Something real, something that mattered. And for the first time in years, William Moore felt at home. Power came back at 5 in the morning, with a low hum that brought all the machines in the apartment to life at once. William and Sophia had fallen asleep on the couch, she leaning on his shoulder, their hands still linked. The sound of the laptop restarting woke them. "The power's back," Sophia whispered, pulling away quickly and smoothing her hair. "I have to." William stood up, still a little dizzy. "I need to check on the servers." 15 minutes later, he was in the office with 3 laptops open, trying to access the company's systems remotely. Sophia appeared in the doorway with 2 cups of coffee. "Did you get in?" "Yes, but..." William rubbed his face. "It's worse than I thought. Not just 3 servers, 6, and the backups failed too." Sophia set a cup beside him and looked at the screens. "Mind if I take a look?" William hesitated a second, then turned one of the laptops toward her. "Please, I can't figure out what happened." Sophia leaned over the screen, her eyes scanning the error logs quickly. William watched her face tighten in concentration, her brows furrowing slightly as she processed the data. She murmured after a few minutes. "Interesting. What did you see?" "Your system had gas." William blinked. Gas, stuck, like when you eat too many beans and feel uncomfortable." Sophia smiled, but kept looking. "Look here at the timestamps. The failures didn't start all at once." "They didn't?" "No, they started here." She pointed to a specific line. "At 7:47 p.m. Then it cascaded. One server failed, overloaded the next, which failed and overloaded the next, and so on." William moved closer. "But what caused the first failure?" Sophia scrolled up. "Here, data sync process. Someone changed backup parameters on Friday and created a circular dependency loop." Dependency loop. William started to understand. Server A was waiting for confirmation from server B, which waited for C, which waited for A. Exactly. Like 3 polite people trying to go through a door at the same time. Nobody moves. Sophia laughed. The system kept waiting for a confirmation that would never come, until memory ran out and boom, domino effect. William looked at her, impressed. "And you figured that out in 5 minutes?" "Your system was screaming the problem. You just weren't listening to its language." Sophia stepped back from the screen. "The fix is simple. Break the loop, restart the services in the right order, and add a check to make sure it doesn't happen again. Sophia, this is going to save the company. Save $300 million to be exact." She shrugged. "I just had to give your system a little chamomile tea. Now it can relax." William stared at her, at the woman who had just saved his company, as naturally as she made pancakes for Oliver, who explained multi-million-dollar system failures with analogies about gas. A wave of something he couldn't name washed over him. Gratitude, admiration, and something more. something that made his chest tighten and his heart race. "I'm going to implement the fixes," he said, turning back to the computer. 2 hours later, all systems were running perfectly. William had sent reassuring reports to clients, the tech team was back to work, and the crisis was over. Sophia was in the hallway heading to the kitchen when William came out of the office. "Sophia," she turned. "All fixed?" "All of it." He stepped closer. "Thanks to you." No." William cut her off, stepping even closer. "You saved everything. Again. You always save everything." There was something in his voice, the way he looked at her, that made Sophia step back. "William." He didn't let her finish. In one quick move, he took her face in his hands and kissed her. It wasn't a hesitant or questioning kiss. It was decisive, full of all the emotions he'd bottled up for months. Relief, gratitude, admiration, and something much bigger that he finally allowed himself to feel. For a second, Sophia gave in. She felt the texture of his lips, the warmth of his hands on her face, the familiar scent of his cologne mixed with coffee and sleepless nights. Then reality hit her, like a bucket of cold water. She pushed him, not hard, but firmly enough to create distance. "William, no." "Sophia, No." She shook her head, her eyes shining with a mix of confusion and hurt. "I'm not going to be your distraction, your escape valve, your reward for solving problems. That's not it." "Isn't it?" Sophia crossed her arms. "You're vulnerable, stressed, I help with work, and suddenly it turns into romance? Very convenient, William. You think that's what's happening?" "I don't know what to think." Her voice rose slightly. "Did you kiss me because you're grateful? Because it's a reaction to relief? Or because you're the only thing that woke me up from my colorless life?" The words came out low but full of raw honesty that made Sophia stop mid-sentence. "William, it's not about work, Sophia. It's not about you fixing problems or saving the company." He moved closer again, but didn't touch her. "It's about you making Oliver laugh. About your funny notes. About how you see the world. It's about you reminding me there's life beyond spreadsheets and code." Sophia looked into his eyes. She saw the sincerity there, but also the fear of someone who didn't know how to handle genuine feelings. "I need to think," she finally said. "Sophia." "No, William, I need time to understand what I'm feeling, what you're feeling, and if this is real or just circumstance." William nodded, even though every fiber in his body wanted to protest. "How long?" "I don't know." Sophia gave a sad smile. "But you'll know when I do." She walked away but stopped before turning the corner. "William, yes, your system wasn't the only thing that woke up." She looked at him for a long moment. "I'd been asleep a long time too." Then she was gone, leaving William alone in the hall, his heart pounding like he'd run a marathon. 3 hours later, during an emergency video call with all clients and investors, William did something that surprised everyone. "The problem was identified and solved by someone on our team who prefers to remain anonymous," he said to the cameras. "This person didn't just save our systems, but also taught us a valuable lesson about simplicity and efficiency." "Who was it?" Hamilton asked, still on the call wearing his orange juice-stained shirt. "Someone who reminded us that intelligence doesn't come with labels or diplomas. Someone who solves $300 million problems the same way they solve everyday problems, with logic, creativity, and a lot of good humor." After the meeting, Marcus came up to William. "Boss, who was it, really? The whole team's curious." William smiled. "Someone special, very special." But as he spoke, his eyes drifted toward the kitchen door, where Sophia was probably making Oliver's snack, pretending the world hadn't completely changed that morning. The server problem was fixed, the company was saved, the clients were happy. But William knew the real challenge was just beginning, and for the first time in his life, it was a challenge he really wanted to face. 2 weeks had passed since the kiss in the hallway. Sophia and William had found a strange balance. They talked normally, worked together when needed, but there was a tension in the air, like electricity before a storm. Oliver, with the sharp sense kids have, had noticed. "Why do you two keep staring at each other and then looking away?" he asked during Friday breakfast. Sophia almost choked on her orange juice. William pretended to be very interested in his emails. I don't know what you're talking about, little guy, Sophia said, messing up his hair. You look like two scared kittens, Oliver laughed. My teacher said kittens do that when they like each other but are shy. William coughed loudly. Sophia decided it was time to take Oliver to brush his teeth. Later, when Oliver was watching cartoons, William approached Sophia in the kitchen. Sophia, I need to make you a proposal. She turned cautious. What kind of proposal? Professional, totally professional. William raised his hands. The company's quarterly event is next Thursday. I want to officially introduce you as a technical consultant. William, just listen. You saved the company 3 times. The shareholders deserve to know who's behind these solutions, and you deserve the recognition. Sophia shook her head. No. Why not? Because I don't want to be your circus, the babysitter who codes, the curious case to entertain executives. She crossed her arms. I told you what I want, remember? Respect, not a show. William nodded, clearly disappointed. I understand, and I respect your decision. Thank you. But, he hesitated. Would you come to the event? As a guest? Sophia studied him. Why? Because Oliver will be there. It's a family-friendly event, and I want him to see where I work. And, William lowered his voice. Because I'd like you to be there. Sophia sighed. Okay, but as Oliver's babysitter, not the mysterious consultant. Deal. The TechCore quarterly event took place in the grand ballroom of the Fairmont Olympic Hotel. It was the kind of event William usually hated. Corporate speeches, forced networking, and executives competing over who wore the most expensive suit. But this time was different. Oliver was fascinated by everything. The lights, the sound system, the giant screen presentations, and Sophia. Sophia looked beautiful. She wore a simple navy dress, nothing fancy, but it highlighted her dark eyes and the natural confidence she carried. Several people came up to greet her, assuming she was William's wife. I'm actually the babysitter, Sophia would say with a smile, enjoying the surprised looks that always followed. William was on stage, giving his annual presentation about the company's results, when he had an idea. A completely impulsive idea that went against everything he had promised Sophia. This year has been challenging, he said into the microphone, looking at the crowd of 300 people. We faced crises that could have destroyed our company. But we also discovered something valuable about where true innovation is born. Sophia, sitting in the middle rows with Oliver, felt a flutter in her stomach. William, what are you doing? She whispered. Sophia Sands, William said into the microphone. Would you please come up on stage? Her blood ran cold. Oliver clapped excitedly. Go, Sophia, Daddy's calling you. 300 pairs of eyes turned to her. Sophia shook her head slightly, but William insisted. Sophia, please, trust me. Against all her good sense, she stood up, walked down the center aisle with trembling legs, aware of all the eyes on her, the curious whispers, the questioning looks. When she stepped on stage, William came closer. You promised, she whispered. Trust me, he said softly. Then he turned to the microphone. This is Sophia Sands. She takes care of my son Oliver. Murmurs of confusion filled the audience. Some executives exchanged looks like, why did he call the babysitter? But Sophia did something more, William continued. She saved our company 3 times, without formal training in our field, without access to our corporate tools. She identified and solved problems that our team of PhD engineers couldn't. The murmurs in the audience changed tone. She did this on her own time, out of intellectual curiosity, using books borrowed from the library and free online courses. And when I offered her jobs, promotions, higher salaries, do you know what she said? William paused, looking at Sophia, who was clearly uncomfortable but hadn't run away. She said she wanted respect. Recognition that intelligence doesn't come with a diploma attached. His voice grew stronger. This woman rewrote more than just code. She rewrote the story of our company, and she taught me that sometimes the best solutions come from where we least expect. The room was completely silent. Sophia represents everything our company should value. Creativity, dedication, humility, and the courage to look at complex problems with fresh eyes. William turned to her. Thank you, Sophia, for saving our company, and for teaching me that human value can't be measured by resumes. The audience burst into applause. Not polite corporate clapping, but genuine, warm applause. People stood up. Oliver shouted from the crowd, "That's my Sophia," making everyone laugh. Sophia looked at the crowd, then at William. Her eyes were shining, but not with anger, with emotion. She stepped up to the microphone. "Thank you," she said simply. "But I want to make one thing clear. I didn't do anything that any dedicated person couldn't do. I was lucky to have access to knowledge, time to study, and," she looked at William, "someone who gave me the chance to show what I'm capable of." More applause. True innovation happens when we stop looking at diplomas and start looking at people. When we value curiosity as much as credentials, and when we recognize intelligence exists everywhere, just waiting for a chance. Sophia left the stage without drama, no long speech, no promises to change the world. Simple, direct, genuine. And while the audience kept applauding, William realized he was completely, hopelessly in love with Sophia Sands. Not just the brilliant programmer, not just the woman who had saved his company, but the honest, brave, and humble person who had just taught a room full of millionaire executives a lesson in humility. William's home phone didn't stop ringing for 3 days after the company event. Journalists wanted to interview the genius babysitter. Headhunters offered 6-figure salaries, and universities offered full scholarships. Sophia answered politely, thanked them, and declined everything. "No, thank you. I'm not interested. Yes, I'm sure. No, it's not about the money." William watched, fascinated and confused. On Wednesday morning, after Sophia had declined her 10th call before breakfast, he couldn't hold back any longer. "Why are you turning everything down?" Sophia poured orange juice for Oliver. "Because I don't want to. But these are amazing opportunities. Google, Microsoft, Amazon, all offering senior positions. And, William gestured lost. These are dream jobs, salaries most people can't even imagine." Sophia sat at the table. "William, have you ever stopped to think that maybe my dreams are different from yours?" "What do you mean?" "I don't want to be the next Mark Zuckerberg. I don't want to work 16 hours a day building tech empires." She took a bite of her toast. "I want a balanced life. Time for the people I love, weekends off, real vacations." Oliver looked up from his cereal. "What's Mark Zuckerberg?" "A man who created Facebook and probably doesn't know the color of his kids' eyes." Sophia replied, looking meaningfully at William. "That was low," William muttered. "It was honest." Sophia stood up. "Look, William, I admire your ambition, but it's not mine. I want stability, not glory. And Isabella, don't you want to help her more?" Sophia stopped at the kitchen door. "Isabella is at her dream college with a full scholarship she earned on her own. She doesn't need me to become a workaholic executive for me to be proud of her." After Sophia left with Oliver for the park, William stayed alone in the kitchen, thinking. He understood what she meant, but he couldn't understand how someone could just turn down opportunities like that. The phone rang again. This time William answered. More residents. "Hello, I'd like to speak with Sophia Sands, please. This is TED Talks. We'd like to invite her to give a lecture on disruptive innovation." "She's not interested," William interrupted. "But you didn't even ask." "I don't have to. She wants a quiet life." "Thank you." William hung up and stared at the phone. A quiet life. When was the last time he had wanted that? On Friday, the calls finally slowed down. Sophia was in the living room, folding clothes, while Oliver played video games, when William showed up with a strange look on his face. "I got an interesting call today." "Another recruiter?" "No, it was the dean from the University of Washington. They want to create a scholarship in your name, for low-income students interested in technology." Sophia stopped folding. "Really?" "Totally serious. The Sophia Sands Scholarship for Inclusive Innovation. They want your approval to use your name and your story as inspiration." Sophia was quiet for a moment. "And what did you say?" "That you'd probably say no, but I'd pass the message along." Sophia sat down on the couch. "This is different." "Why?" "Because it's not about me. It's about other people like me. People who have intelligence but no access." She looked at him. "I'll think about it." William smiled. "I thought you'd say that." On Saturday morning, William woke up with an idea that made him smile for the first time in days. He went to Oliver's favorite pizza place, which he'd found out was also Sophia's favorite, and bought a large margarita pizza. Then he stopped by a stationery store and bought a blank card. When he got home, Sophia was in the kitchen making lunch. "Pizza for breakfast?" She raised an eyebrow. "It's not for breakfast." William put the box on the kitchen table along with an envelope. "It's a job offer." Sophia looked at the box, then at him. "William, open it." Inside the box, besides the perfectly golden pizza, was a handwritten note. "Sophia, formal job offer. Position, Creative Solutions Consultant at TechCore. Hours, 20 per week, flexible. Very good but not ridiculous. Benefits, health insurance, 30 days vacation, and free pizza whenever you want. Requirements: keep being exactly who you are. Work location, wherever you feel most comfortable. Boss, a guy learning that success without balance isn't success. If you change your mind, the spot's yours. And the pizza too. P.S. You can bring Oliver to the office anytime. We have a game room with video games. William. Sophia read the note 3 times. Then she looked at William. 20 hours a week. With total flexibility. If Oliver is sick, you work from home. If Isabella needs you, you take time off. If you want to travel, we'll make it work. And the very good but not ridiculous salary? Enough for you to feel financially secure without becoming a slave to money. William stepped closer. "Sophia, I don't want to turn you into me. I want to learn how to be more like you." Sophia took a slice of pizza. "What if I don't accept?" "Then you don't accept, and you stay the most important person in Oliver's life. And mine." Sophia chewed thoughtfully. "This pizza is great. It's from Gina's. Oliver said it's your favorite." "Really?" She took another slice. "William?" "Yes?" "You said the most important person in your life." William felt his heart speed up. "I did. Was that on purpose?" "Totally on purpose." Sophia smiled. "Good to know." She finished her slice quietly. William waited, trying not to show his nervousness. "All right," Sophia said finally. "All right what?" "I accept the job." She carefully folded the note. "But with some conditions." "Which ones?" "First, no introducing me as the former babysitter turned consultant. I'm Sophia, period. Deal. Second, if you become an obsessive workaholic again, I'm out. Understood?" Sophia stood up and walked closer to him. "About that kiss in the hallway." William's heart stopped. "Yes? I'm still thinking about it." "And?" Sophia smiled and kissed his cheek, very slowly. "You'll know when I'm done thinking." She stepped back, grabbed another slice of pizza, and left the kitchen humming. William stood there, his hand touching where she had kissed him, a silly smile on his face. From down the hall, Oliver's voice came. "Daddy, why are you smiling alone again?" "Sophia said you've been doing that a lot lately." William laughed out loud. "Because life is getting interesting, son." "More interesting than pizza for breakfast?" "Way more interesting than pizza for breakfast." And for the first time in years, William Moore was absolutely sure he was on the right path. 6 months later, Sophia had settled perfectly into her new role at TechCore. She worked 3 days a week at the office, 2 days from home, and had managed to improve the efficiency of 5 different departments without ever working more than 6 hours straight. "She's like she has a superpower," Marcus said during a meeting. "Solves in 2 hours problems that took us days to understand." William smiled every time he heard comments like that. Sophia hadn't changed who she was. She just found the right place to shine. And he was learning that leaving the office at 6 didn't make the world end. Oliver loved going to the company on the days Sophia worked there. He had his own little spot in her office with books, games, and a computer where he helped solve problems by drawing solutions in different colors. "Dad, Sophia said the blue code works better than the red code," he explained seriously during dinner. "It's scientific." "Of course it is," William agreed, sharing a playful look with Sophia. Their relationship had grown into something comfortable and warm. They hadn't made anything official yet, but they lived in a sweet dance of almost romance. Hands that accidentally touched, looks that lasted a few seconds longer than they should, conversations ending with meaningful smiles. Oliver had become an expert observer. "When are you going to get married?" he asked one Tuesday at breakfast. Sophia almost choked on her coffee. William dropped his toast. Who said we're getting married? Sophia asked, regaining her composure. No one. But you both make that in-love face adults make in movies. Oliver chewed his cereal thoughtfully. And you already live in the same house. And Dad smiles all the time now. And you leave notes for him, even when there's nothing to fix. William and Sophia looked at each other. The observation from a 5-year-old was oddly accurate. Oliver, adult relationships are complicated, Sophia explained. Why? You like each other, take care of each other, make each other happy. Seems simple to me. From a child's mouth, thought William. 2 weeks later, William received an invitation that would change everything. TechCore had been selected to present its innovations at the Global Technology Summit in San Francisco. It was the biggest event in the industry, with 5,000 participants from 50 countries. They want me to present our approach to inclusive innovation, he explained to Sophia, and I want you to come with me. As a consultant, as a partner. William paused, feeling the weight of the word. I mean a professional partner. Co-presenter. Sophia smiled. Got it. And Oliver? He's coming with us. It's going to be a family adventure. William paused again. Work family. Family. You get it. I get it. Sophia laughed at how he stumbled over the words. And I accept. The Global Technology Summit was held at the Moscone Center, a huge complex in downtown San Francisco. William had presented there many times, but he'd never been this nervous. Not because of the 5,000 people or the cameras streaming live worldwide, but because he had a plan. A plan he'd carefully thought out for weeks, and it could go very well, or very badly. Sophia looked flawless in a navy blazer that brought out her eyes, with a professional but approachable vibe that was purely hers. Oliver sat in the front row wearing a special junior consultant badge Sophia had made for him. The presentation went perfectly. William talked about disruptive innovation, Sophia about the importance of looking at problems from different perspectives, and together they showed how small mindset changes could lead to big results. The audience was fully engaged. Smart questions, genuine applause, networking cards exchanged like confetti. To close, William said as the presentation neared its end, I want to say something personal. Sophia looked at him, surprised. This wasn't in the script. When I met Sophia, she was just my son's babysitter, William said, looking at her. I couldn't see past the labels I had created myself. Babysitter, employee, someone without a college degree. The room was completely silent, but Sophia taught me that labels are limits we put on people and ourselves. She didn't just save our system, she saved the way we think. And, William paused, looking directly into her eyes. She saved my heart. Sophia's eyes widened. What was he doing? William knelt on the stage. 5,000 people held their breath. Cameras zoomed in on him. Sophia Sands, he said, pulling a small laptop from his pocket. You changed my life, my son's life, and the life of our company. You taught me that love, like innovation, happens when we stop following manuals and start following our hearts. He opened the laptop. On the screen, instead of code, was a message. Will you be my co-CEO in life? And in the compartment where the battery usually was, there was a ring. William, Sophia whispered, hands covering her mouth. I know you don't like big shows. I know you prefer simple, private moments. William smiled. But I wanted the whole world to know that you are the most extraordinary person I've ever met. The audience was completely silent. 5,000 people watching a marriage proposal at a tech conference. So, William said, holding up the ring. Sophia Sands, self-taught programmer, solver of impossible problems, the woman who taught me that intelligence comes from the heart as much as the mind. Will you marry me? Sophia looked at him, at the ring, at the 5,000 people in the audience, and at Oliver, who was standing in the front row shouting, Say yes, Sophia. Then she did something very typical of her. She laughed, not a nervous laugh, but a genuine, joyful, free laugh. William Moore, she said, taking the microphone, you are completely crazy. Is that a yes? That's a... Do you really think I'd say no after a proposal with a custom laptop at an international conference? So, Sophia knelt down too, getting level with him. Yes, I'll marry you. She took the ring and examined it. but only if I can keep sending you scribbled notes fixing your code. Forever, William said, slipping the ring on her finger. The crowd went wild. 5,000 people stood up, applauding, cheering, whistling, cameras flashing, people crying, a sea of collective happiness. But Sophia and William only had eyes for each other. "I love you," he said, finally saying the words he had been holding back for months. "I love you too," she replied. "Since the day you laughed at my jokes about memory leaks." "That's when I knew it was true love," William laughed. "Kiss her, Dad," Oliver shouted from the crowd, causing another wave of laughter. And there, on the stage of the world's biggest tech event, in front of 5,000 witnesses and cameras broadcasting live around the world, William Moore kissed Sophia Sands. It was a kiss that said everything that needed to be said. About code and hearts. About problems solved and lives changed. About love that comes when least expected and changes everything we thought we knew about ourselves. When they pulled apart, Sophia whispered, "Next time, warn me before you do public proposals." "Next time? When you ask to renew our vows in 50 years. Sophia smiled. "I want to be ready to give a worthy answer." William laughed, took her hand, and waved to the crowd that kept applauding as if it would never stop. 3 months after the proposal in San Francisco, William's penthouse was being transformed into something he never imagined. A wedding venue. "Are you sure you want to get married at home?" he asked for the 10th time, watching Sophia direct the decoration operation with the precision of a general. "William, if you ask me that one more time, I'm going to put an infinite loop in the company's system," Sophia replied, adjusting a flower arrangement. "Of course I'm sure. This is where our story began. This is where Oliver feels at home. This is where it makes sense." Isabella had arrived from Los Angeles the night before, glowing with happiness to see her older sister finally find someone who truly valued her. She and Oliver had instantly become best friends, united by their mission to make sure the wedding is perfect. "Aunt Sophia," Oliver said, appearing in the room wearing a tuxedo that was way too small. "My tie is trying to strangle me." "Come here, little one." Sophia knelt to fix his tie. "You know soon you'll have to call me stepmom, right?" "Can I still call you Sophia?" Oliver asked seriously. "Stepmom sounds too formal." "You can call me whatever you want, as long as it's with love." "Then I'll call you Mom Sophia." Oliver smiled. "Because you're like a mom, but you're still my Sophia." Sophia felt tears well up. Mom Sophia is perfect. At 4 in the afternoon, guests began to arrive. It was a small celebration, just 40 people. Family, close friends, and some co-workers who had become part of their lives. Marcus showed up with his wife, still in disbelief that his workaholic boss was marrying the most sensible consultant in the company. Hamilton appeared, clean, juice-stain-free, and surprisingly humble after the events of recent months. "Where's the bride?" asked the officiant, a cheerful woman Sophia had specifically chosen because she was less formal than a traditional priest. "She's getting ready," William answered, nervously looking down the hallway. At 4:15, Sophia appeared, and she left everyone speechless. She was wearing her nanny uniform, the same simple blue uniform she wore on her first day of work, perfectly pressed, with a small flower pin on the pocket. "Sophia," Isabella whispered in horror, "you're not getting married in your uniform." "Why not?" Sophia shrugged, walking calmly over to William. "It was in this outfit that I solved my first problem for him. It was in this outfit that he fell in love with me. It's the outfit of the woman he asked to marry him." William looked at her like she was the most beautiful thing in the world. "You look perfect." "Are you sure?" Sophia did a twirl. "Because I brought a backup outfit." "You're perfect just like that." The officiant smiled. "Well, this is definitely the most unique ceremony I've ever performed. Shall we start?" The ceremony was simple and touching. They wrote their own vows full of inside jokes that made everyone laugh. William promised never to try impressing Sophia with fake codes again. Sophia promised to keep fixing his mistakes, in programming and in life. When it was time for the rings, Oliver came forward carrying the rings on a little pillow he had decorated himself, with tiny drawings of computers and hearts. "With this ring," William said, sliding the ring onto Sophia's finger, "I promise you a life full of adventures, fixed codes, and Sunday pizzas. With this ring, Sophia replied, I promise you infinite patience, funny notes, and unconditional love. I now pronounce you husband and wife, the officiant said. You may kiss the bride. But Sophia raised her hand. Wait, just a minute. She ran to the bedroom, leaving everyone confused. 2 minutes later, she reappeared wearing an elegant, simple but stunning wedding dress that perfectly highlighted her natural beauty. Now this is more like it, she said, smiling. I wasn't going to let the wedding photos be all in work uniform. The crowd laughed and applauded. William shook his head, smiling. You're amazing. I know. Sophia stepped closer. Now kiss me properly, husband. And he did. A kiss that sealed not just a wedding, but a partnership that had transformed 2 lives and an entire company. The party was exactly as they had planned. Relaxed, fun, and full of unexpected moments. The food was from their favorite pizzeria. The music included both jazz and reggaeton, and Oliver took over the dance floor, with moves he swore he learned from watching educational videos. When it was time to toss the bouquet, Sophia had one last surprise. Single ladies, come on up, she shouted. But beware, no traditional bouquet today. She pulled out a gold USB drive, decorated with a white ribbon. This USB contains all the codes I fixed for William over these months, she announced. Whoever catches it will gain special debugging powers. And she threw the USB behind her. Isabella caught it, laughed, and shouted, I'm going to hack the college system and improve my grades. That's illegal, Sophia shouted back, laughing. I learned from the best. As the party was winding down and guests began to leave, William and Sophia met in the office, the place where it all began. So Mrs. Moore, William said, hugging her from behind as she worked on the computer. How does it feel to be a married woman? Period. The same. Except now I can officially fix your codes, Sophia turned in his arms. And you, Mr. Moore, how does it feel to be a married man? Like I finally found my co-CEO for life. William kissed her forehead. And look what I had framed for the office. He pointed to the wall, where there was an elegant plaque with a phrase in gold letters. Never underestimate a woman with a rag in her hand and a plan in her head. Sophia laughed out loud. Perfect. But you know now I'm going to demand my own office, right? I already took care of it. Next door with a park view, top-of-the-line computers, and a coffee maker only you know how to use. And a nameplate on the door? Sophia Sands Moore, official solver of impossible problems. More, Sophia smiled. I like the sound of that. They were silent for a moment, looking out the window at Seattle lit up at night. It was the same view William had been looking at alone for years. But now everything seemed different. More colorful, more alive, more complete. Is Oliver asleep? Sophia asked. Like a rock, Isabella's reading to him. William smiled. I think we gained 2 families today. Definitely. Sophia snuggled closer in his arms. William? Yes? Thank you. For what? For seeing me, really seeing me. Not what I did, but who I am. Thank you, William answered. For teaching me that life is so much more than work, that intelligence comes in many forms, and that love happens when we least expect it. Sophia smiled and looked at the plaque on the wall. You know this phrase is going to become a legend of the company, right? I hope so. William kissed her again. I want everyone who walks in here to know that great things can come from unexpected places. Like a nanny who solved a $300 million problem? Like an extraordinary woman who changed my whole life. And there, in the office where Sophia had fixed her first code, where they shared talks about life and dreams, where a kiss changed everything, they began the first day of their lives as husband and wife. What did you think of Sophia and William's story?
Join the conversation. Your comments and engagement are part of the healing process. Let us know your thoughts below. If this journey of resilience and turning pain into power resonated with your heart, please support Healing Stories. Subscribe. Help us build a sanctuary of strength by subscribing to the channel. Share the hope. Give this video a like and share it with someone who needs to hear this message of recovery and justice. Your support allows us to continue sharing powerful narratives of overcoming trauma and finding peace. Subscribe to Healing Stories and be part of the change.